Hello, this is probably the last video for the therapy chapter, and you need to study the chapter really well because A, the test, and second of all, Willie Woods has just listed me as non-essential. That's kind of hard to take, so I may need some counseling. But anyway, uh, let me go ahead and talk about the last part of the chapter. One thing I want to talk very quickly about group therapy. Um, and the pluses and minuses of group therapy. Um, and Group therapy basically has four pluses. And you equestrians know this pretty well because the fact is group lessons are cheaper than individual lessons. And so group therapy is cheaper. Instead of $150 a pop, maybe pay $25 an hour because there's 8 of you and so forth. The second of all, when you're in group therapy, you find out you're not the only one with this problem. A lot of times it's when you're a teenager, you're the only one suffering and nobody knows how your pain. This way, you're not unique in the sense that you have other people having the same problems but also adapting well. Excuse me. The third is you get group support for your members. Um, One of the things that notice, like when you honor students, um, you're together in a bunch of classes together, and you sit together and you just kind of bond. You get your social support, so you get social support in the big groups. And the final thing is more like real life, because Schopenhauer said the most hardest thing in life is dealing with stupid people, and he's a German philosopher, and right on that deal. So the fact is that we have many clients who go in to the psychologist and they have a great relationship. But as soon as they leave the office, they can't handle it. Well, in a group session, you have other people. And since you have to deal, well, we're not dealing with people now, we got to social distance, but you know what I'm talking about, is it's more like real life. So what are we the four? So we don't miss on the test. 1 is cheaper. 2 is more like real life. 3, you get group support. And 4, you're not the only one to have that, and that's a kind of important quality to have. The next to last thing, well, the last thing I want to talk about is somatic therapies, and somatic therapies are biological interventions, and so this is some way, and the most common is drug therapy, right? We got drugs for this disorder, drugs for that disorder. It's trying to affect neurotransmission, and so drug therapy is probably the most common somatic therapy. That the psychiatrist will say you have to take this depressant or that. A lot of times it's very difficult because we used to just go by weight and for the amount, and that's not no longer the case. So it takes a while, about 6 months, to find the right level. Then after a while, you get used to it. So drug therapy takes a lot of time and training to do. Also, psychosurgery is starting to be big. Now, back in the old day, is they used to do frontal lobotomies, and I don't want to gross anybody out because it grosses me out. But they would stick like an ice pick up through your eye thing socket and just scramble the part of the brain. It served its purpose, but you came out to a vegetable. Um, so, uh, and the people at State Hospital, they used to have tours. They don't do anymore. And they have the rose bed garden out there. And they used to tell the people that that's where they bury the people who died through lobotomies. They stopped that in 1948. So that's really not, that's a myth. However, now that we have brain mapping and we know every inch of the brain what it does, we now with lasers can destroy the part that's not working or screwing things up and correct it. So psychosurgery is starting to come into its own. And the last is electric shock therapy. And that is, first of all, was developed for schizophrenia. Then they found out it was really good for the last resort. Again, underlying last resort for people with major depression. But now we're seeing it starting to use again with schizophrenia. But on the test, you're going to link it to major depression. And I had the privilege, or I don't know if that's the right word, of seeing a electric shock therapy session, and I have my own ideas on that. They bring you out in a gurney and they strap you and they tie your tongue up and you do questions, you'll know what I'm talking about there, and then they shock the hell out of you. The idea is that your brain is an electrical unit, and so we're going to get all the things going the right direction and stuff. Um, and my theory is it's 3 sessions. After the first session, you go back to your room and you're going, God, that was terrible, because they leave you there for an hour because your muscles are still twitching and stuff. And you go, do I want to stay depressed or get the hell shocked out of me? You go, I think I'm going to get stop being depressed. So I think that's why it works. But anyway, you do have a problem with short-term memory loss. Kind of those who usually smoke marijuana might have the same things, kind of different reasons. But the fact is that you do have that, and eventually, luckily, that'll come back. But well, again, we're starting to see them using. Now they banned it in California because they had some deaths because they would depend on shock on weight, and they found out that it's a heart condition. Weight. I mean, the weight has something to do with it, but still. But now they're starting to use it again because there are a lot more constraints and more things to go by, and we're a lot smarter about this. So the 3 are psychosurgery, drug therapy, and electric shock therapy. Okay? And somatic therapy cannot be done by itself because you just can't shock somebody and then not have any counseling with it. So I always argue that somatic therapy is a therapy that we use a biological intervention, but it has to have some kind of either insight therapy or behavioral therapy, probably more insight therapy to go along with it. So this ends our therapy chapter. Hopefully you don't never need therapy, but if you do, just go through these tapes and cure yourself, and everything will be great. So in these times of anxiety and depression and stuff, we need to be, thinking about positive psychology and positive therapy, and look for that light at the end of the tunnel, which we can't see yet, but well, eventually it'll come over there. So, I mean, even the Chinese started to go back to normality, whatever that was in China. So it'll happen here, and hopefully I'll see most of you in the fall. And so this ends the chapter on therapy. So starting next week, you need to start looking at this stuff because the test, I think, is the 3rd. After the 3rd, we go right to the therapy chapter, and then we do the social psych chapter. And I say the social psych chapter at the end because I had all these neat activities to do in class, and we can't do them. C'est la vie. All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye.